Hello, and welcome to the Sleep Science Podcast. I'm Penny Lewis, a neuroscientist specializing in sleep and memory and the presenter of this show. This is the podcast where we talk to experts about all aspects of sleep, from dreaming and sleepwalking to what sleep does for our brain and our body, and how we can get more out of our sleep. Hello, everyone. This is our end of season Christmas Q&A session, and I'd like to thank all of our listeners for sending in their interesting questions about sleep. It's always lots of fun to see what you come up with and hear how our sleep experts here in Naps Lab Cardiff answer your queries. We're going to start by introducing our sleep experts, and I'd just like to flag how proud we are of the diversity of this group.
Hi, I'm Martha Wawrzuta, and I'm originally from Poland. I'm a third-year PhD student here in Naps Lab, and I study emotional processing in REM sleep.
Hello, I am Kyrillos. I am a psychiatrist and a second-year PhD student. I'm studying emotional processing during sleep, and I am originally from Egypt.
Hi, I'm Saqib. I'm originally from Bangladesh. I'm a first-year PhD student at the Naps Lab. I study emotional processing in REM, and I also do machine learning and AI.
Hi, I'm Yan. I'm now a postdoc in Naps Lab, and I come from China. Now my study focus on REM sleep. I want to answer the question how REM sleep will manipulate your emotion and your memory.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm a psychology assistant at the lab supporting my studies and the project administration, and I'm from Wales.
Hi everyone, this is Mo Abdellahi. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at NAPS, and I'm working on analyzing brain signals, so EEG signals, and I use machine and deep learning for this, and I'm also an AI lecturer at Cairo University from Egypt.
Hi, I'm Dulni. I'm a Year 3 integrated master's student in neuroscience, and I'm originally from Sri Lanka.
Hi everyone, my name is Martha Nguyen. I come from Vietnam, and my research interest is on targeted memory activation in REM sleep, but also with measure of neuroimaging.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think it's interesting for our audience to hear all your backgrounds and where you all come from. And now we're going to dive into the questions. The first question is for Martha, and the question is, how does sleep deprivation affect mental health?
Sleep deprivation has a complex relationship with mental health, with strong links to both depression and anxiety. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation as well as sleep continuity disruption can lead to increased anxiety, especially in the form of generalized anxiety disorder. This applied to both total sleep deprivation and REM sleep restriction, meaning that anxiety symptoms increased even when participants got enough sleep in other sleep stages. Sleep continuity disruption and reduced quantity of sleep have also been shown to decrease positive affect or positive feelings the following day, lead to depressive symptoms, and even increase risk for major depressive disorder, which in turn can increase the risk of insomnia, potentially further exacerbating the problem. Knowing all of this, you might be surprised to learn that sleep deprivation has also been studied as a potential treatment for depression and bipolar disorder. This is called sleep deprivation therapy, and it involves depriving a patient of sleep for 36 consecutive hours, leading to total sleep deprivation. Studies have shown that this can cause rapid improvement in depressive episodes, with the effect being visible after just 24 hours of sleep deprivation. While promising, this type of therapy was not found to be an effective long-term solution, as the antidepressant effect disappeared after so-called recovery sleep on the next day. Recovery sleep refers to a corrective process which results in increased sleep duration that may occur in response to a sleep debt. Researchers have tried to maintain the antidepressant effect by implementing repeated sleep deprivation, but the effect gradually diminished within a few weeks of patients restoring their usual sleep rhythm. Sleep deprivation treatment was also not any better than standard treatment on its own, and sleep deprivation in conjunction with standard depression treatment was not better than standard depression treatment without sleep deprivation after 1 week. To summarize, sleep deprivation is generally disadvantageous for mental health, with increased anxiety and depression symptoms being the main outcomes. And sleep deprivation therapy for depression has been found to be an effective treatment in the short term, but the effect is not lasting and not better than standard treatment.
Thank you very much, Marta. So the next question is for Kyrillos, and the question is, what is narcolepsy?
So, narcolepsy is a disorder that affects the brain's ability to regulate sleep-wake cycles. It is mainly characterized by excessive daytime sleepiness and sudden sleep attacks that can happen even in the middle of activities. These sleep attacks may have vivid dreams. But this is not all. Other symptoms are also linked to narcolepsy, such as cataplexy. which is a sudden loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotions like laughter. So if you tell a really good joke, someone might literally fall for it. Another thing that may be associated with narcolepsy is the vivid visual or auditory hallucinations that may occur during falling into sleep, which we call hypnagogic hallucinations, or during waking up from sleep, which we call hypnopompic hallucinations. These can be really scary, especially when paired with sleep paralysis, where you're awake but you cannot move. Although these episodes may feel like forever, the good news is they usually last less than a few minutes. So how common is narcolepsy? Well, it is believed to affect approximately 1 in 2,500 people, with roughly 30,000 cases in the UK. This is just an estimate because many cases go undiagnosed. With regards to the causes of narcolepsy, it is linked to a deficiency of hypocretin, which is also known as orexin. It is a neuropeptide secreted by neurons in an area of the brain called hypothalamus. Hypocretin promotes both wakefulness and the stage of sleep called REM sleep. That's why people with narcolepsy experience sudden sleepiness and disrupted sleep cycles. So how is narcolepsy diagnosed? So the diagnostic criteria by the International Classification of Sleep Disorders include, number 1, excessive daytime sleepiness, and number 2 is cataplexy plus one of the following, either a positive multiple sleep latency test, and I will explain what this is, or hypocretin deficiency in the cerebrospinal fluid. So what is a multiple sleep latency test? This is basically a nap challenge that provides helpful information on how long it takes the person to sleep, or what we call the sleep latency, and how long it takes them to reach each sleep stage. It is usually scheduled the day after an overnight sleep study or polysomnography. You are given the opportunity to take 4 or 5 short naps divided by breaks of 2 hours. What makes the test positive? If the average time to fall asleep across the 5 naps is less than 8 minutes, plus if REM sleep is reached early on during the nap in at least 2 naps, which is called sleep onset REM period, these 2 points make the multiple sleep latency test positive. Normally, the REM sleep stage first occurs after about 90 minutes of sleep. REM sleep experienced shortly after a person falls asleep is called a sleep onset REM period. More recently, there is a growing distinction in classification systems between 2 types of narcolepsy. Type 1, which is with cataplexy or low hypocretin CSF levels, and type 2, where cataplexy is absent and hypocretin levels are within normal. So narcolepsy isn't just about being tired or oversleeping. It's a complex neurological condition that deserves understanding and support. And next time you see someone dozing off in lectures or meetings, don't just assume they're bored.
Okay, thank you very much, Kyrillos. The next question is a spooky Halloween appropriate one for Al-Saqib. And the question is, what does the full moon do to our sleep?
There's a long-running idea that the full moon messes with our sleep. You know, more tossing and turning, weird dreams, maybe howling in the garden. Historically, we have been blaming the moon for everything from insomnia to lunacy. In fact, the term lunatic literally comes from luna, meaning moon. So humans have been suspicious of the moon for a very long time. The question is, does modern science agree? Interestingly, yes, to a point. One of the most cited studies here is by Christian Kyokin and colleagues back in 2013. They analyzed sleep data that had been collected years earlier, so no one in the experiment knew they were being studied for moon effects. They found that around the full moon, people slept about 20 minutes less, took longer to fall asleep, and showed reduced deep sleep. The authors suggested it might reflect some kind of ancient biological rhythm, possibly left over from when moonlight mattered for predator-prey interactions. But science loves to double-check itself. Later studies have been mixed. Some large-scale analyses have found no meaningful lunar effect once you control for things like artificial lighting, bedtime routines, or that possibly other people just notice bad sleep more during full moons because they expect to. In other words, a bit of confirmation bias. However, more recent research has revived the conversation. A study comparing sleep in modern urban environments and in rural communities without electricity found that people in both settings tended to go to bed later and sleep less on the days leading up to the full moon. The researchers suggested that human sleep may still be subtly tuned to the natural lunar light cycle, even when we live surrounded by LED light bulbs and Netflix. So what's the main takeaway? The full moon probably has a small but real effect for some people, perhaps an evolutionary remnant linked to moonlight and nighttime activity patterns. It's not dramatic, though. You're not suddenly transforming into a wolf or writing poetry at 3 a.m. under mysterious inspiration. Unless you're already doing that, in which case the moon is innocent. For most of us, the biggest sleep disruptors today are much less romantic. Caffeine after 4 p.m., phone screens in bed, stress, and the existential dread of unread emails. So yes, the moon may nudge your sleep a little, but the real villains are WhatsApp and your late-night scrolling habit.
Thank you very much, Saqib. Good that none of us are howling at the moon and transforming into werewolves, at least. So the next question is a little less dramatic, and it's for Yan. And the question is, how does a smartwatch track our sleep?
Okay, today I will answer the question, how does a smartwatch track sleep? I don't know if you have ever tried wearing a smartwatch and check your sleep score in the morning. If you have, you might have wondered, how does it actually know that? I mean, it's just a watch on your wrist. Well, your smartwatch doesn't actually measure sleep directly, at least not the way scientists do in a sleep lab. Yeah, like us. In the lab, we usually use electrodes with the EEG caps on your scalp to record neural signals in your brain. A watch can't do that, actually. Instead, it watches what your body is doing while you sleep. The first clue it uses is movement. Inside the watch, there is a teeny sensor called an accelerometer. Basically, it tracks how much you move. If it says that you are lying still for a long time, it assumes you are asleep. If you start tossing and turning, it knows you have woken up or shifted into lighter sleep. That's the basic idea behind something called actigraphy. Smartwatches are evolving really quickly these days. The newer models don't just rely on your movement to tell when you are asleep. They also track your heart rate and heart rate of variability. That's the little changes in time between each heartbeat. Your heart tends to slow down during deep sleep and gets a bit more irregular during REM sleep when you are dreaming. So those patterns give extra clues about what stage of sleep you might be in. Some watches even keep an eye on your breathing or blood oxygen levels, which can hint at how well you are sleeping or if you are having brief breathing interruptions like snoring or mild sleep apnea. Then once all that data is collected, the watch runs it through some pretty smart algorithms, basically models trained on real sleep lab data, to estimate how long you slept and how much time you spent in each stage, light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Of course, it's not perfect. It's just making a really good guess based on movement and heart patterns. It's usually pretty accurate for telling when you are asleep versus awake, but not quite as precise for the different stages of sleep. Still, for most of us, it's a super helpful way to spot trends, like whether you are going to bed too late or if you are finally catching up on rest after a busy week. I hope this helps you look at your sleep tracking results with a bit more science and maybe a bit less mystery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yan. Okay, the next question is one that I'm going to be curious to hear the answer to myself because I don't know it. So the question is for Sophie, and it is, what is orthosomnia?
Orthosomnia is a relatively new phenomenon that was first coined in 2017 by Dr. Kelly Glaser-Barron and colleagues in a case study research. And the term can be split into ortho, which literally translates to mean correct or proper or right, and then somnia, which means sleep. And the term tries to describe the fixation and obsession that we can develop from gaining optimal sleep metrics from devices like sleep watches or apps on our phone. And the kind of metrics that we're talking about here are sort of what ones that Yan mentioned, which is related to heart rate variability. So it might report on your heart rate, how long you took to fall asleep, how long you spent in bed, the time spent in REM and non-REM. And they can also deliver a percentage of quality. So 100% being like, you got a great night's sleep. And then the lesser, like 80% is less quality sleep. Whilst this information is useful to some people, in others, it develops this sort of paradoxical effect of actually worsening sleep. The anxiety around trying to obtain optimal sleep data induces aspects of increased restlessness, increased time spent in bed even when the person isn't asleep, and in some individuals can even develop symptoms that resemble insomnia. So the individual might have struggled to fall asleep, might struggle staying asleep, and might have more awakenings throughout the night. A troubling aspect of this is that it's all based on data from sleep trackers, which, as previously mentioned, is not the gold standard for recording sleep and can lead to inaccurate reports or oversimplification, which can mislead the user a little bit. In some case studies, individuals who have gone into a sleep lab reporting disturbed sleep have had the sort of gold standard EEG recording and no major issues have cropped up from a sleep researcher perspective. But upon awakening, the individuals will check their smartwatch and say, oh, I don't feel well rested because my smartwatch says I'm not well rested. And so it actually sort of a negative feedback system where the smartwatch says you're not well rested, so you don't feel well rested. The other important thing to mention about orthosomnia is that as it's a relatively new phenomenon, it's not actually a formal diagnosis yet. With increasing usage of sleep tech, so more sleep watches, more EEG wearable devices, and also with more people paying attention to their sleep hygiene and their sleep architecture, there is more research being paid attention to this, but it's still quite a strange phenomenon that nobody fully understands yet. Some research has pointed to using anxiety questionnaires or looking at people who are more prone to perfectionism. But ultimately, people don't really know why some people will develop orthosomnia and some people won't develop orthosomnia.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. So it seems that if the moon isn't the culprit, then perhaps it's the smartwatches that are the culprit after all, that are causing the problem. All right, the next question actually addresses a whole different culprit, which is near and dear to my heart as a new parent, but we'll see how the audience feels about it. So this question is for Mo Abdellahi, who is soon to be a new parent, which is probably why he chose to answer this question, which is, what is sleep regression?
Okay, so sleep regression is a phenomenon that happens in babies. It is when you notice that your baby who has been sleeping very well is suddenly getting up many times during the night and not really wanting to have any naps during the day. So this happens in babies that are 4 months. And I'm sorry to say that it might happen again around 10 months or 12 months. But each baby is different. What is actually happening is that your baby is going through many developmental changes. So the brain is very busy because now your baby is rolling around, walking, developing new cognitive skills. So to put it simply, the brain is very busy such that it's so busy to settle down for some sleep. Ironically, it is called regression. I feel like whoever called it regression was looking from the perspective of the parent, because they felt that their development of their baby is going backwards, but actually their babies are developing just fine. Another good news is that this happens for about 1 or 2 weeks. It might extend for about 5 weeks, but this is totally normal. So remember to always stick with good sleep habits and to have a specific sleep schedule and stick with it and have the baby in a quiet, dark room. And this should be a normal phenomenon and it should go away very soon.
Okay, thank you, Mo. I feel that was a very optimistic summary of sleep regression. In my experience, it can be much more than 5 weeks. But you're going to find out very soon. Okay, the next question is for Dulni, and it is, does magnesium citrate help you sleep?
Magnesium is nicknamed the relaxation mineral because of its ability to quieten the nervous system and help your body wind down. It does this by supporting GABAergic signaling. Basically, it helps inhibitory neurotransmitters bind better to its receptors, making your neurons less excitable. So in the context of sleep, low magnesium levels can make it harder to quiet the nervous system when you go to bed, leading to restlessness, anxiety, and muscle tension. In theory, magnesium citrate supplementation can not only reduce this, but also lengthen deep sleep stages and reduce nighttime awakenings. It can also support melatonin synthesis, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. So does it actually work in practice? If your magnesium levels are low, yes, supplementation is much more likely to help. Multiple studies have shown that higher levels of magnesium in the body are associated with falling asleep faster, less exhaustion during the day, and even better rest in the morning. However, these improvements were seen mostly in people who were already magnesium deficient to begin with. Additionally, scientists suggest supplementation might be better suited for improving sleep in people who have a restless brain naturally. Because anxious thoughts intensify at night when daytime distractions fade, magnesium may help by calming the overactive neural circuits that keep the mind alert and restless. But if someone already has enough magnesium and generally has a calm temperament, evidence for the benefit is less certain. This is because most existing research focuses on people who already have a lower baseline magnesium intake. So if your magnesium levels are already normal, taking magnesium citrate might not make a big difference for your sleep. But still, making sure you get enough through a magnesium-rich diet can help rule it out as a potential barrier to good sleep. Interestingly, the type of magnesium also might matter in terms of how your body reacts. Magnesium citrate is brilliant because of its high bioavailability in your body, but has a laxative effect, so some people find it upsets their stomach and counterproductively disturbs their sleep. Also, the citric acid component of magnesium citrate can disrupt the pH of your stomach, which can cause acid reflux and heartburn, disrupting sleep even more. Forms like magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate are said to be gentler on the stomach and therefore might be more effective. So to summarize, magnesium citrate can definitely help some people sleep better, especially if your levels are a bit low or you tend to have a busy racing mind at night. But how much it helps really depends on the form you take, how much magnesium you're already getting from your diet, and how much your body might respond. You should think of magnesium citrate as a dimmer switch for your brain rather than the magic sleeping pill the internet might claim it is.
Amazing. So we don't have a full solution yet to sleep from magnesium citrate, but the next question might give us more of a solution. And I have to say, it's my personal favorite. So this question is for Martha. And the question is, how does dark chocolate help your sleep?
So, does dark chocolate actually help you sleep? The answer is not simple because dark chocolate contains compounds which may both promote and hinder sleep. Clinical studies on dark chocolate and sleep show quite mixed results. A 2024 triple-blind trial in menopausal women found no significant improvement in sleep quality comparing 78% dark chocolate versus milk chocolate. However, they did find mood was improved. Magnesium and small amounts of tryptophan in cocoa support muscle relaxation, calm the nervous system, and aid production of serotonin. They also promote relaxation. Studies suggest cocoa flavonols may enhance brain function, reduce fatigue, and affect serotonin, but human evidence for direct sleep benefits is still very weak. One experiment has shown that flavanol-rich cocoa can affect aspects of sleep-wake cycle and help mitigate stress-induced sleep disturbance, largely by increasing serotonin and improving vascular function, but data in specifically sleep quality are still very preliminary. The comforting ritual of eating a little dark chocolate can also psychologically enhance rest. However, dark chocolate also contains caffeine and theobromine, which may disrupt sleep, especially in high cocoa varieties or when eaten close to bedtime. So if you want to benefit from dark chocolate, maybe enjoy small portions earlier in the day, choose low sugar options, and avoid them before bed if you are caffeine sensitive. But also remember that individual response may vary as well. So just to tie everything up, dark chocolate may indirectly support sleep through mood and relaxation, but it has no consistent proven impact on sleep quality.
Oh, Martha, you burst my bubble. So we have no excuse for eating loads of dark chocolate at bedtime. All right. So thank you, everyone. I think you've all done a really nice job of answering these tricky questions that came from our audience. And maybe we can just have a round of applause. You've been listening to the Sleep Science Podcast with me, Penny Lewis, and a group of sleep experts from the NAPS lab in Cardiff. Thanks for listening and Merry Christmas.